July 2017, AK-47 wielding corps raid John Jinapor's home. Mr. Speaker, 5 police officers believed to be from the National Security on Friday raided the home of former Deputy Power Minister, Mr. John Jinapor, in search of documents related to the controversial $550 Ameri deal. Mr. Speaker, this very house, this very house approved the Ameri deal.
I thank you. Earlier on, I had tried to catch your attention. I think it's important we set the parameters right. Let it go into the records that nobody's afraid of this subject matter. And the leader says that he's cautioning. Nobody's afraid. Nobody has anything to hide. Now, the point I want to make is that, Speaker, yes, when we are debating, we make reference to other sources of information. Let it be put on record that any matter that anybody wants to reference, it should be tabled. It should be tabled. Speaker, if our colleague has some source of information, let that information be tabled before you can proceed on same subject matter. You can just get up and say that Ghana Web. Table it. Let him table it. No, he should table it. Anybody gets up and say Ghana Web, he should table it. Speaker, I insist. Let him table it. Then he can take his source serious.
Honorable John Jinapor.
Mr. Speaker,
you already spent 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, that's most unfair. That's most unfair. I mean, you can't do this to me, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you are a leader. And you should know that when something is public record, especially in this house, we do not tender any evidence. Professor Mike Okwe, then Speaker, made a ruling on the matter in this chamber. You were seated here. Professor Mike Okwe, Ofori-Atta wrote to the OSP that, look, I am not in the country. I've received the invitation and I will come back and report to you for any investigation. You have no right, Mr. Speaker, you have no right to send soldiers to raid a man's house when he's not there. When he has told you that I will come, I'm out of the country. It is worse than armed robbery. In fact, to the extent that I have seen pictures of Richard Japa, who has just been forgiven of his sins, raiding somebody else's house. What business has that man in the house of a man who is supposed to be traveled outside? This is not the democracy we are building.
Thank you.
It is wrong for John Mahama, who just won an election, to try to use soldiers to intimidate people.
Thank you very much.
We will not agree today.
Thank you
we
very
will not agree tomorrow. We are not cowards.
Thank you. Thank you.
We will account to anybody who wants us to account.
Thank you very much. Now,
28th July, Professor Mike Okwe wrote to the CID in respect of this matter. And so what other evidence do you want me to tender when it's captured in the Hansard? Anything captured in the Hansard, you don't tender any evidence. Mr. Speaker, I am saying that on that fateful day, Mr. Speaker, on that fateful day, when my house was raided by AK-47 wielding national security operatives, when they banged on my door, creating fear and panic, sending my 6-year-old child into a state of hysteria, into a state of fear. We had members here. They never commented on it. And I commend Professor Mike Okwe on that day when he stood up and ruled that what they were doing was wrong. Mr. Speaker, they took my phone, they took my laptops, and took it to the United Kingdom to investigate me. Today, a very simple matter. You are scared of it. Mr. Speaker, Let me explain something. The OSP has declared Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta as a fugitive. As a fugitive. Mr. Speaker, in our local language, fugitive, in our local language, it means that wadenwa kamura. Wadenwa kamura. Or, to put it simply, wajibam. 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 Or in the Hausa language, otilo. Otilo. Or to put it in a more simpler way, yagudu. It's as simple as that, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, we should not be afraid of accountability. As public officials, when they took my laptop, it got to a point they couldn't even open the iPhone. I told them I was willing to come and use my fingerprint. It was then and there that they told me that the phones had been taken to the United Kingdom. I had to give them the password. Eventually, the very America that I was accused of, a minister was dismissed because it came here padded by almost $800 million. Mr. Speaker, on this auspicious day, on this day of reckoning, on this day of accountability, the only thing I can say is that we wish the man in white,
5 minutes
the best of luck.
is up.
But Mr. Speaker,
5 minutes is up.
The finance minister should come here and settle the scores as far as
5 minutes is up.
Military men led by Mr. Richard Japa unlawfully entered the premises of Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, searched his rooms.
Honorable Minority Leader, the unlawful entry is by your own determination.
Mr. Speaker, you know that by virtue of where we sit, we are able to do some background check before we come here. I wouldn't want to mention names, but Mr. Speaker, when inquiry was made, it was obvious, and I stated for emphasis that those officials from the state did not have any warrant. Mr. Speaker, we should not encourage such an approach. We should not. Our democracy is still young. Today, it is Ken Ofori-Atta. Tomorrow, it will be another person. Some of our colleagues should not forget that only yesterday, it took the intervention of certain prominent members of our side to ensure that they were not mistreated. We will not mention names. They know. So these should be the voices of reason on this occasion.
Several times there was a referral to a group known as a political class. And several times a call on members of the political class not to do this to each other. And what do we mean by let's not do this to each other? Let's not, when there is a change in government, try to hold each other accountable this way or that way. I take a position that, indeed, the reason why the voters go and vote for one political party as against the other is so that they will come and hold each other accountable. The day that we stop holding each other accountable, that will be the day the electorate will lose confidence in this democracy.
I signed a directive declaring a high-profile person a fugitive from justice. This person is wanted by the OSP to answer charges in respect of several cases, including the following. 1. Contractual arrangements between Strategic Mobilization Ghana Limited and the Ghana Revenue Authority for the stated objective of the enhancement of revenue assurance in the downstream petroleum sector, upstream petroleum production, and minerals and metals resources value chain. 2. Termination of a distribution, loss reduction, and associated network improvement project contract between the Electricity Company of Ghana Limited and Beijing Xiaochen Technology BXC. 3. Procurement of contractors and materials and activities and payments in respect of the National Cathedral Project. 4. Activities and payments in respect of a contract awarded by the Ministry of Health, initially commenced by the Ministry for Special Development Initiatives to Service Ghana Auto Group Limited for purchases and after-sales service and maintenance of 307 Mercedes-Benz Sprinter 305 CDI ambulances for the National Ambulance Service. And 5. Payments out of and utilization of the tax refund account of Ghana Revenue Authority. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, the fugitive's name is Kenneth Ofori-Atta. And this is to Mr. Ofori-Atta. You have two choices. You can either return to the jurisdiction voluntarily or the OSP will enforce your return. We are not without the milk of human kindness to appreciate and reckon a person's medical condition. But when you conduct yourself in a certain way to suggest that all you are doing is just a ruse and that you have no intention of returning to the jurisdiction, that is the conclusion we have come to. You see, as I said, the first communication to us was clear, that he was away indefinitely from the jurisdiction on medical grounds. Then we pushed further. You cannot tell us that you've gone out of the jurisdiction on medical grounds on your say-so. If you're a serious law enforcement agency, would you just take a person's declaration that, oh, I am so much an invalid that I'm unable to come? You demand to know more, right? And that is exactly what we did. So we pushed. The response that came was unconvincing. That he may, at some future time, undergo possible surgical procedure. And I said something which is very crucial. There's intelligence available to us, which we do not want to reveal now because it may compromise the investigation. That tells us that, and that's what I stated, that it is just a ruse, that he can travel to the jurisdiction. It's not as if he comes to the jurisdiction, we'll promptly lock him up and throw the key away. It is a process we go through. This is a democratic institution with very well prescribed constitutional and statutory legal processes.
So you heard in Parliament some of the members, including the leaders, taking the issues that have happened as regards Ken Ofori-Atta on very seriously. John Abdullahi Jinapor, the Minister for Energy, recounted similar experience that he suffered. We have heard Dr. Dominic Ayine, the Attorney General, also recount similar experience in 2017, and James Ejenim Boateng also recounting similar experiences. Of course, these are not just tales that they are telling, they are truths that these things happened. I was lawyer for Kofi Adams, so I know these things. They did happen. They went to his home, took all his cars and locked them up, and they had to fight to get them back. And then Afenyo Marking was urging caution that the political class must not do this to each other, to themselves, that it is not good for them to be doing this to themselves. And then the majority leader disagreed, that he was proposing that they should not hold each other accountable. And he disagrees with that. Well, the majority leader later rendered an apology for how Ken Ofori-Atta's home was, quote-unquote, attacked. Question: because it happened yesterday, it is okay today, but why is it happening today, and is it justified? Let's begin with Frank Davis. Frank Davis, thanks for joining us. Please unmute your mic. Okay, so we'll give Frank David some time.
Thank you very much, Samson.
Great.
Thank you very much, Samson. Thank you very much, and thanks for the opportunity. My greetings to all Ghanaians, descending Ghanaians, your viewers and esteemed listeners. Samson, I must say that the events of recent time have left all of us wondering whether we are pursuing any good democracy or constitutionally prescribed governance. I don't really understand why we are boxing ourselves in such despicable, excuse my language, situations. I mean, there are always laid down rules, procedures, and practices, for doing things. So it falls short of trying to offer any whimper of excuse for things which ought to be done regularly and properly and are done otherwise, for people just to come back and apologize. You know, what is wrong yesterday cannot be right today. And there is no need to make referrals to the past when the present is there to guide us. We look into the past and correct our mistakes, of the present. But when we still do things that are condemnable in the past, in the future, who is going to appease or hold himself responsible for what has happened? It is worrying. It is worrying, and I find it very difficult to appreciate and understand what is going on. I mean, if you take my circumstance as a trained lawyer, now this Ken Ofori-Atta matter, I am pained by the fact that, and please, nobody should wax political about these matters. I mean, we are talking as discerning Ghanaians, and I'm talking here as a lawyer, not as a political actor. So I am going strictly according to the dictates of law.
First, will it be wrong if they went to the house with a search warrant?
It should not be wrong if they went. It should not be wrong if they went to the house with an arrest warrant. Of course, if they have an arrest warrant, they have every right to come to your home. But the decency is communication and notice. The decency is communication and notice. When we all know that the person being sought after is not a petty criminal, it's not a common criminal walking around the streets. I mean, this is a minister, was a minister of state. For God's sake, the finance minister for that matter. A high-profile, very prominent cabinet minister. And where was Ofori-Atta until this? Was he not in this country? Was Ofori-Atta not in this country, but for the incidents of ailment, which was known practically to everyone? Who didn't know in this country that Ken Ofori-Atta was under some medical siege? I mean, if you have an arrest warrant and you come to my home and I'm indoor, the little understanding and limited knowledge of the law I have is that you politely invite me out and tell me that you have an arrest warrant to search my home. You have to exhibit the warrant. I have to see it before you enter. Something, you know, you have to exhibit the warrant to me. I have to peruse the warrant. Under circumstances, I can tell you that, wait, yes, you have a warrant. Can I have the option of talking to my lawyer or something? If the decline is made, fine. But because arrest warrant is a process of law. So I have every right to interrogate whether even the arrest warrant is legal or regularly procured. So I can ask of you, the officer that, am I permitted to talk to my lawyer? Since this is a process of the law courts, you want to come and search my home. It has far-reaching implications for me.
In fact,
so can I consult my lawyer?
In fact, those seeking to arrest you are the ones supposed to read out your Miranda rights.
Of course, the Miranda rights
to tell you that you have the right to speak to a lawyer of your choice.
They have to read your Miranda rights to you. But in this country, everything is taken for granted. Okay? If they had a lawful arrest warrant, they should have gone through all this. But you don't just barge into somebody's home. I have seen what happened there, and it is traumatizing.
So
I mean, even if you want to set someone's home, you mean you don't have to even give the benefit, the person of the benefit of being there. What if you drop something there? If you want to search my bedroom, would you search my bedroom without being present in the bedroom? So, what if you go and drop something there? So and then you will be responsible for it.
As we understand, it was not a search exercise; it was an arrest exercise, and we are now learning that they went there duly authorized with an arrest warrant. But being that they are national security operatives, they will have powers of the police and may not even need an arrest warrant. Do you agree with that?
Something. If you are security operatives, okay, and you don't even need a warrant. I disagree anyway. And you don't even need a warrant. The proper thing to do is to put the person on notice if you get to the premises. That's the most appropriate thing to do. Barring any circumstances, you have to politely notify the person, but you don't barge in because that is not your home. The privacy of anybody's home is guaranteed by the Constitution.
Correct.
The Constitution is the predominant and fundamental law of this country. Any other thing done should be subservient to the Constitution. So nobody can say...
the MPs were actually quoting Article 18, as you have just referenced, in Parliament, except they read and stopped without completing the particular provision, which makes an exception for a criminal process. That the privacy of your home and your correspondence, your property is protected from being invaded. But there's an exception.
Yes, but something, all I'm saying is that appropriately, take it or leave it. I'm saying that it should be the courtesy of notice.
Right.
I mean, even if you come to my home, politely, I mean, let me know because that is my home. Even if there are exceptions, you notify me of the reason why you were there. And then you enter. That is the most civil and polite thing to do. But let's come to the issue. I mean about Ken and the circumstances which even led to that. And let's link it with the OSP's pronouncements of the matter. In the first place, how can anybody appropriately describe Ken as a fugitive from justice? I mean, who is a fugitive from justice? The little criminal law I know is that there are 5 simple criteria to declare someone a fugitive from justice. Failing to appear upon invitation, refusing to obey a summons or a warrant, fleeing the jurisdiction, concealing or hiding himself, or eloping or jumping bail after charges are preferred against the person in court. These are the 5 salient points to guide the definition, as I understand, of a fugitive from justice. You are fleeing arrest, prosecution, or investigation. But from from everything that has gone on, the correspondence between the OSP and the lawyers of Ken Ofori-Atta, how, in what stretch of the imagination can anybody describe such a person as a fugitive from justice? You have written to the person has responded to his lawyers, he has given an indication of where he is for medical treatment, there's an address of where he is in the United States of America. You have invited him to come to see you on the 10th of February. He says, look, I'm having consultations and engagements with my doctors. I'm not able to tell you definitively when I'm supposed to come to the country, so give me time. In any event, if you have any queries, consult my lawyers. But something, there is no law which binds any suspect to assist the prosecutor in investigations. This is basic. First principles, of criminal law. There is no law which says that a suspect in a case should assist the police in prosecutions. No. Prosecutions
that's why they have the right to silence.
Yes, the prosecutions are carried out at the instance of the prosecutorial authorities. So you have to investigate and charge him. I can decide to be lean on assistance. So then what? So because the person, even if granted that Ken Ofori-Atta does not even want to assist in investigation, does that make him a fugitive from justice? You see, sometimes in a loud pronouncement.
But normally the suspect has to be taken in and they have to give their statement, their caution statements, right? Before they are charged. First principles. Okay, so I understand that we have a little of a problem with Frank Davis's line now, but let's see if we can get Samida Aku to answer a couple of these questions before I bring my guest here in the studio in. Samuel Apiadaku is with the OSP, Director, Strategy, Research and Communications. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Samson.
Great. The first question has been asked by Frank Davis, and many have asked that question. What is it? How can you come to declare Ken Ofori-Atta fugitive from justice? Has he run away? From your communications, it's a period of less than 20 days. So why are you declaring him wanted?
Thank you. To declare somebody wanted, there are reasons why you do so. One of them will be that the person is unwilling to appear before you. The person cannot be located. And when it has to do with extradition, which is a different matter, that's when you are going through trial and the person has run away. In our case, it is because the person is unwilling to appear before us.
The evidence doesn't show that. Convince us.
The evidence more than shows that. First of all, it has nothing to do with the frequency of correspondence. So it can even be just 2 correspondents. Everyone in Ghana is equal before the law. We do not have first-class citizens, second-class citizens. Ordinarily, when you are alleged to have committed an offense, and you are summoned by the police, you go to them. Sometimes, many citizens don't even get the chance to be given an invitation. The police just zooms in and arrest them because the police can arrest without a warrant on account that they have reasonable grounds that you have committed an offense or about to commit an offense. When you decide that you will not avail yourself, that is when they will go to court, get an arrest warrant, declare you wanted. If you go to the Ghana Police website, the Yoko website, the OSP website, several people, hundreds have been declared wanted. And there is nothing wrong in this country. Nobody is complaining, nothing. Now, let me come to the
Because first of all, those people cannot be found. It's difficult to trace them. Those people may be ordinary people. Their bona fide is difficult. Ken Ofori-Atta is that easy to find, isn't it?
If it was that easy, then he would have appeared before us. But let me go on to why we are so convinced that he needs to come and not when he wants to come. A lot of people have referenced the letters. Let me go through the chronology. The SP already did that, but let me do a little more. It was, you see, the first letter they wrote to us to say that our client is undergoing medical treatment and that he's unavailable and that we can sit him. Our first response was that, are you, the lawyers, trying to tell us that you committed the alleged offense with him? And so suddenly, lawyers in this country can now sit in for a suspect. The confusion in the minds of people who are sympathetic or people who may not understand what is going on is that they are thinking that Mr. Ofori-Atta is a person of interest. In law enforcement, when we say you're a person of interest, we simply mean that we need you to provide us with some information. Then it will help us make a determination whether we think that you have a role to play or not. We were very specific in our letters to Mr. Ofori-Atta. We describe him as a suspect in our investigation. The OSP does investigations silently. And when we come out to say you're a suspect and we need you for specific reasons. One, it's possible that we want to place you under arrest so that we either decide whether to grant you bail or not to grant you bail in as you know, the rule 48 hours. We need to take your investigation caution statement. We need to take your fingerprints. There are some documents we need to do. We may be able to want to do an emergency search at some places based on what we know. And this can only be done with the person, not his lawyers, unless the lawyers are saying that they are part of those who allegedly committed the crime. And so we pointed it out to them. Then they go back and now realize that they need to now attach a letter from a doctor. So then they attach a letter from a doctor, and the doctor just tells us that, well, I'm attending to this person, he will do this, he will do that, there will be possible surgery, blah, blah. We get it. The point we are making is that the burden is on you to tell us when it is you can make yourself available, one, or that you are giving us cogent reasons that you are so sick, you cannot even sit in a flight for 10 minutes. Where you are not moving from one place to the other, having engagements, and that we have to hold on. If you're able to give us such a reason, we are reasonable people, law enforcement people.
But obviously from the correspondence, you didn't ask for that. They brought you evidence to show that he is unwell and is undergoing treatment. You simply choose not to believe the facts of that correspondence, and you call it purported medical letter.
Yes, and you can let your viewers see their letter because they put it out there. Remember, OSP doesn't put out such correspondence. They did. Now, if you read it, it's a letter from a doctor. It's not a medical report. And it's not about whether we believe or disbelieve. The burden is not on us to now come to you and show and ask you why you can't fly, why you cannot do this. Remember, you have first said your lawyers should come. We have now intimated to you that your lawyers, unless they are agreeing that they committed the offense with you, then we can deal with them because of the processes we want to take you through. Now, you then now realize that per our questioning, you now decided to add a letter from a doctor, not a medical report. Viewers, there's a difference between a medical report and a letter.
Yeah, that's my question. That's my question. If that was not satisfactory, why don't you ask for it? And again, can we not stay to the fact that Ken Ofori-Atta is not an ordinary Ghanaian?
In the eyes of the law, there's nothing like an ordinary Ghanaian and a special Ghanaian. Remember,
there is. That is why people get self-recognizance bail and others cannot get bail on in their names. If I got into trouble today, I could just go to the police, mention my name, I could be given bail. I could go to court and I will not be asked to put anything forward because I am a public person. The ordinary person does not enjoy the same thing. So it is true, is it not?
No, it's not true. It's at the discretion of the investigator. I mean, they decide to accord you that respect. That is fair enough. And that's why we've accorded him enormous respect in terms of the processes that we've done. The point of disagreement, really, sometimes I'm asking myself, what's all this chaos that people are bringing around this matter? Is because Mr. Ofori-Atta has not been able to give us a specific time frame within which he will make himself available.
At least they mentioned to you that sometime in March. So fair treatment. Allow him until March. If he doesn't show up, then you zoom in on him.
No, there's nowhere in the letter that says March. It says post. It says there will be surgery, another post. It can even be November. It can be next year. That's
give him the benefit of the doubt.
It's not about benefit of the doubt. It's about we agreeing that I'm undergoing this process and that I'll be done by, say, March, as you said, and I will make myself available to you on April, between 1st to 10th April. Then you are being specific, or that you are telling me that you are so sick that you are unable to come. Now, let me tell you something. Are we in this country now saying that these things should be at the discretion of the suspect? And people have said that the suspect need not say anything and blah, blah. Of course, nobody is inviting Mr. Ofori-Atta because we are now coming to take his statement to investigate. No, we are telling you that we have come out and we said you're a suspect because we have done our investigations and we are convinced that you have a matter to answer. It is your right. You can even come to the police station and say, I don't have anything to say. But of course, we must still take you through the process. We must still take the things we want to take.
No, what Ghanaians are simply asking is some amount of fairness in treating people in a certain station in life. The same approach to Professor Frimpong Boateng, and people were unhappy about it. Okay, and the OSP said that he doesn't consecrate saints. And so if Ghanaians believe that Professor Frimpong Boateng is some saint, they will not treat him as one. The same approach here, and people are complaining. Just exercise some fairness in treating them. Is that too much to ask for a person of the stature of Ken Ofori-Atta, Sami? And you have dealt with him in a period of less than 20 days.
It's not too much. But the people who argue that way are missing the point, because the point is not about fairness. If it's about fairness, we are being very fair. That is why we wrote to him. Not being fair is rather having somebody bring you down when he has not even had a correspondence with you. Mind you, some people have even suggested that we could have stopped him from traveling. And we have said that, on what basis do you want to stop somebody from traveling? Every Ghanaian is free to travel for medical treatment, whether in Ghana or abroad. In the same way, when a law enforcement demands your attendance, you are not going to say that it may inconvenience you, and so you are not able to come. But you have to then prove to us why you are not able to come. Are you so sick that you cannot fly? Or the issue has to do with the inconvenience of your originally planned schedule? That is the whole matter. We are saying that once you are able to give us cogent reasons, we will give you that opportunity. And we have done so to other people who are ordinary Ghanaians and not even people who are elites, as you have said. There is no cause for alarm. I think that the tag of being declared wanted is what is worrying people. How is a person declared wanted? You are declared wanted because there will be an arrest warrant because we are not finding you, and you are declared wanted.
But there are damning consequences to that. There are damning consequences to that for people who have spent years building their reputation, getting all the education they can get and building themselves up professionally. This damages them. You must agree that this damages them.
Of course, it may damage you, but the point is that the OSP has not said that he's guilty of anything. The OSP has said that he's a key suspect in a number of investigations it has conducted.
What do you lose? What do you lose if you say we are investigating him, we understand he's somewhere else, but we are not going to take that? What do you lose? Do you have to declare him wanted and a fugitive from justice?
Yes, we have to do that because that's the legal procedure you have to go through, because when we do that, it means that we are now prepared to bring you down. And to be able to bring you back to the country, we need to go through certain legal processes.
It's been argued by a number of lawyers, senior and former attorneys generals, that you could proceed without him. So what's the big deal?
It's not true. Sometimes some things even baffle me when we say such things. Remember that we need to complete the preliminary processes at the police station. If we had finished with that and he had been charged, we could proceed without him. But
in criminal process, we hear that somebody is at large. They are tried in absentia. Is that not the same thing?
When we say a person is at large during trial, it usually means that everything has been done and filed and that the person is not attending to the court. At this stage, there are certain processes we need to take. Some people have even suggested that we should go and do it where he is. And I was even surprised that some sympathizers had even said that he's in UK, right? That was telling me that they didn't really know maybe where he was. But how do you go to a foreign land and begin to do investigations and other? It's not done. Our protocols does not allow us to do that. The OSP has done somewhere we did video conferencing, but these people were suspects. These people were persons of interest. Please give me a few seconds. They were persons of interest. In the Madame Sisiri-Atta case, there was a person of interest. And I've already explained the distinctions between the two. We just needed information to be sure whether we need to activate processes to bring her down or not. There was another case that we needed to go there because that person was half Ghanaian, either half Ghanaian, half another country. And the
John
country
Mohammed's brother, that's the example that has come up.
And the country was unwilling to bring down the person despite an Interpol red alert and all that.
The UK was unwilling to bring him. That's why you had to go there.
There were serious challenges because the notice was not being executed. And I don't need to disclose all these things because of sometimes the implication it has. And that if that nation permitted that we come there and do it whilst they are there for purposes of guarantee and not witch hunt and all that, that can also be arranged.
The argument has been made that the world has changed. It looks like you are far behind. Don't you know how to use virtual processes like we are using to interact with you this morning?
Exactly what I just told you, because he's a suspect. The things that we have to do, he needs to be physically present for us to do that. And it has nothing to do with virtual processes. We have virtual processes, but somebody is in your studio and I'm here. There are reasons why it is so. Now, when all is said and done, I've said that maybe the problem is with the fact that he's been declared wanted. But it's because we have also afforded him the opportunity to give us a time frame or to give us a cogent reason why he cannot be in Ghana.
You're looking for information with this person in the process. His lawyers say we are ready to supply you whatever you need. Why don't you take that to start with?
It's not information we are looking for. We have finished. We have done with our investigation. The OSP, and I'll give you a reason. You notice the former MPA boss. When his name was mentioned at a press conference, I saw a press release from him that had said that
Hamid.
He's not aware that he's being investigated. And I was saying to myself that, how on earth do you want to be aware that you are being investigated? Because he said that the OSP had not written to him. Of course, we're not going to write to you. We need to do our investigations on the quiet. Professor Frimpong Boateng, had it not been him who came out 3 months after we had interviewed him, no Ghanaian would have heard it. The time you would have heard was when we were ready. So all I'm trying to say that
I'm hearing a contradiction from you. Professor Frimpong Boateng came public. Otherwise, you would not have made it public. Here is someone that you have not even charged, and you've made it public.
No, the two are not the same. Remember I said that in the Professor Frimpong Boateng case, if he had not come out to say that, you wouldn't have known we are investigating him. And I was making the point to the...
Would have known. Your law requires you to make publications within certain periods, so would have gotten to know.
Yeah, but sometimes we are not so specific or detailed, right? And that even feeds into my next action. Some people have complained. The OSP likes doing press conference. The OSP likes putting things out. The OSP likes doing that. And for us, we do appreciate all the concerns because we know that the OSP is new. Many lawyers will say, oh, they've read the OSP Act and all that, but sometimes, truly, they have not painstakingly gone through. They've not even read our LI.
Okay.
You know that the foundation of our law is that we are to be transparent in almost what we do. And our law allows us to even publish our investigative reports. Our law allows us to correct so many things. So how can you do these things in darkness?
Right. We actually meant to engage you briefly so you go off, but we would like you to stay on for a while for us if you don't mind. But you got it wrong when you said that Ken Ofori-Atta's the raiding of his home was staged or was an imposter action. Now we know it's a state-sanctioned process. It's national security sanctioned process. We are hearing that perhaps there would have been there must have been an arrest warrant, not a search warrant, for the purpose. And so they didn't go there to search. And all of that. We are hearing contradictions also, that he had actually alerted the Jubilee House long before he left the country. How the state security was unaware, that's another issue. So you got that wrong. You said that was your intelligence.
Let me first address the issue of alerting the Jubilee House. What has that got to do with us? A law enforcement agency has nothing to do with the fact that when you were traveling, you alerted either the former chief of staff or the present chief of staff and all that. We understand the courtesies and other things that are needed when you're in a foreign country and all that. Those processes has nothing to do with us. In the same way we have said that when people said that we could have stopped him from going, we said we can't stop him from going. But when we demand of his attendance, he needs to come down. So when we sent him the letter, yes, we are aware that he was out of the jurisdiction, but then we needed his attendance. The second point, a wicked lie was told against the OSP. And this is not the first time. You know, people try to paint a certain picture for you in this country in order to create chaos around you, create disbelief around you. And it's an old age trick that most people do. The night before the press conference, apologies of Mr. Ofori-Atta. Some of them are journalists, some of them are well-to-do and placed people in society. We're going round. And in fact, they placed it also the following day in a newspaper. And the newspaper had quoted, allegedly, the wife of Mr. Ofori-Atta saying that it was the OSP that stormed the house. Please, if you allow me to build this point quickly.
Yeah, be very quick about this. I need to move on here in the studio. Yeah.
But before they said that, they were aware the security agency that had entered the house. Mr. Adumotre on his show was ready to show pictures and videos, but did not do that. Because if he had done that, it would have exposed the lie that it was not the OSP. First of all, I'm happy that the OSP has been vindicated, that it did not go into the house of Mr. Ofori-Atta. And I don't even like to use the word rape.
The point I'm making is that you said that was
yes, I'm coming to that.
Staged,
I'm coming to that. It's not
an imposter action. We know it wasn't staged, and it wasn't an imposter action.
At the time of the press conference, the intelligence that was available to the office had suggested that this was not carried out by the OSP, and at best, it would have been staged by Ofori-Atta or an imposter action.
Yeah, so you are a human institution. You can get it wrong. You got it wrong. Is that correct?
Upon hindsight, and I'm saying that if we had not pushed them, there was no way they would have come out and even display the videos and the pictures.
Okay,
remember, the timing is very important.
Thank you.
To allow me
thank you, Sami. Thank you. Thank you. I need you to hold on there for me. Let me come here. And Frank Davis' line broke, and I think we can let's get to, okay. So Frank Davis, having heard Sami Darko from the OSP, are you minded to, as it were, amend your position about what you, the NPP, and other Ghanaians, not only the NPP, say this is such an egregious, approach to Ken Ofori-Atta's situation?
Can you run me in a bit? I lost touch a bit before I came back. So what exactly did he say which is prompting what you're asking me?
The explanations he's giving, you spoke about when, someone could be declared as a fugitive. Your first issue is that when the person refuses to appear, he says, yes, that's the point. He's refusing to appear. And so they activated this process that they have activated.
But how can what he has I just listened to him, how can what he has said be a defense of what happened? I mean, if with the greatest of respect, to the young man, if this is how he communicates, then with due deference and great respect to him, it's casting a very poor picture of the OSP's office. I mean, with great respect to him. All that he has says is laced with inherent contradictions and inconsistencies. He cannot make one simple point correctly. Now you ask them, look, Samson, when somebody fails to appear, what are the ingredients? You have written a letter to someone. Indeed, when that letter was written, the person was out of the jurisdiction. The person is minded because he's out of the jurisdiction to get his lawyers to respond to your letter. There is exchange of correspondence between you and the lawyers of the person. Whether he's a person of interest or he's a suspect is neither here nor there. There is a line of communication until the last bit that he said, look, I have medical conference with my doctors. They are examining me, and up to a certain point, I'll make myself available. Now, this man says that a letter from a medical officer is not a medical report. You ask him a pointed question. Why didn't they request for a medical report? If they were so minded, why didn't they request for a medical report?
He said that's not their business, and they are not interested. They had found that this was just an attempt to evade, and therefore they had to make a decision.
Something, it wouldn't be their business because that is a convenient excuse. In any event, the man has indicated that I have conferences with my doctors, and this is what my doctor has written. Whether you believe it or not is neither here nor there. But at least he has corresponded. So that cannot be suggestive of a failure to appear.
All right, please hold on.
Something. Yeah, okay. Much more. Please allow me this one. You know, when things happen, and with the benefit of hindsight, you realize that you are wrong, the most courteous thing to do is to apologize to the person involved. Now, your boss said it proudly and loudly at the press conference that the intel he has picked suggests that either Ken Ofori-Atta stage managed the raid on his home or it was an imposter action. Now the facts have been laid bare. The majority in parliament has apologized for what happened. The Office of the National Security has come out, and we are now faced with the bare facts that it was operatives of the National Security Coordinator who went to the premises. As a noble person, what are they supposed to do? He sits there to defend what has happened, that it was because of what they did that prompted what?
Thank you for that point.
I think you see, when these careless decisions are taken, they ought to be taken in context.
Thank you.
You have embarrassed the man and told him that he has state managed a raid on his own home and put his wife and children in such trauma. And now that you have been exposed, instead of you to apologize, you are saying what?
All right, Bright, I don't know, how do you process what you have heard over the period since the visitation to Ofori-Atta's home and then the OSP's press conference?
So, I mean, is my mic working all right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so, I mean, when your producer reached out and we're discussing, I was like, I don't have any specific insights into these matters. Like everybody else, I'm listening to the discussion in the media and the rest. And typically, we, from an Imani point of view, we tend to react when we have done our own research and we have specific insights to give. But there are a number of points that I can make. I was bewildered by the sequence of events because initially, as you've catalogued in terms of the narrative that we've seen so far, there was confusion whether or not the OSP had anything to do with it, and the OSP felt that they had to very strongly assert their lack of participation in this military raid, or so-called national security raid. Then the CCTV footage came. In fact, the first time I heard of this matter was on a WhatsApp group, which is a private WhatsApp group, where somebody mentioned that this incident had occurred, and that there was this suggestion that the military was involved. That, of course, was strange, because typically you have military raids if there is expectation of violence or terrorism, those kinds of incidents where potentially law enforcement agents, including the police, may be at risk because the people involved are armed or something like that. We don't typically mount military raids on civil targets. So that was confusing. Then eventually became quite clear that this was an operation that had the involvement of either members in the National Security Secretariat or persons assigned to the National Security Coordinator. That one we get somebody in Parliament now apologizing on behalf of national security. And to me, everything seems completely disorganized. is this authorized by the national security authorities or not? Because if it's authorized by the national security authorities, then why is the majority leader apologizing for their conduct?
Yeah, so now that is confirmed. This was a national security operation.
True.
So the majority leader clearly didn't get his information before he went apologizing.
Very, very strange. And everything has been strange right from the very beginning till now. Certain things are clearer, but we still have a lot of murkiness. I'll give you an example. When the famous declaration of fugitive status came, I quickly checked the list of wanted persons, and I realized that there were only 4 people that had been publicly declared as wanted by the OSP at present. I'm pretty sure they have had other declarations in the past. Sadia Hassan, Anthony Jesse, Juan Frank Asare, if the name is right. And my view of the matter then was this
They did for
process?
Charles Bissiou also. Yeah.
Yes, but I think in terms of people that are currently, I think Derek
right.
Usman, Asumanin, Frank Jesse, Anthony Asare, and Sadia Hassan. So I was assuming that perhaps the declaration was still in process. I think this is not yet concluded, and at the time of the press conference, it was still underway. Now I understand that the OSP actually also has an arrest warrant, which is kind of interesting. And we have been told that, as you've just disclosed, the national security also has an arrest warrant. So it does appear as if these are operations of the state, properly sanctioned. I have not seen the video that is being complained about, because that could potentially change my view. If, as lawyer, the gentleman who just spoke, lawyer Frank Davis.
Frank Davis, yeah.
If, as he suggests, the conduct of these security agents were completely unacceptable, then of course we will have cause to be worried, because even when you have an arrest warrant, etc., you are still required to be professional in your conduct, not to abuse the rights of suspects, etc. But so far, I think we are all literally just, trying to piece together a bewildering array of information, and it's very difficult to say one way or the other, conclusively, whether somebody is at fault.
Interesting. The matters that the OSP is saying that Ken Ofori-Atta is being investigated for, Strategic Mobilization Limited and the GRA. Strategic Mobilization, remember, it's SML. That became very topical. Manasseh Azore-Awini's investigations and civil society, particularly the ASEP, who did the work and unraveled wrongs that were going on in that area. You remember that this institution was asked to do an investigation around it by the president. They did, and they found a number of wrongs that had gone on with the process. They say there's the ECG and Beijing technology contract termination, the National Cathedral project. Remember the National Cathedral project, monies that were advanced without parliamentary oversight or some other breaches. Procurement of ambulances, you have heard about that. And they say the GRA's tax refund account payments. What's your understanding, perhaps in the general terms, about how serious these will be to warrant the OSP's posture, not to say, look, I want to give you all the space and work at your pace?
So for those specific ones, apart from the GRA matter, which I know nothing about, in each instance, there is documented fiscal waste, frightening levels of documented fiscal waste. The OSP, on that, to be entirely honest, the OSP's role and mandate is corruption enforcement, anti-corruption enforcement.
That's right.
So in Ghana, we define corruption pretty narrowly. It really is almost bribery and a few other things, abusing of public office for private benefit. I don't have specific evidence of bribery, and I don't have specific evidence that public office was abused in a particular manner. But what we do know from the work that we've done in respect of SML, the Beijing technology contract, I think that is the one that is related to what we now have with the smart meter, one of the earlier smart meter projects.
Okay.
The National Cathedral, we've been loud critics of the way in which money has been spent. The service auto issue is well known as well in terms of the ambulances. So these are areas where the Republic has lost hundreds of millions of dollars, literally. And is still, in some cases, still on the hook to lose even more money. Whether or not they amount to corruption and bribery is a matter that is entirely within the purview of the special prosecutor because it's provided no information whatsoever. Perhaps he could have given us a bit of a summary in each case why he thinks these are corruption and bribery matters. But from a financial management point of view, yes, we've had great concern with it. And of course, in most of these instances, you have multiple actors in the government, multiple civil servants, etc., etc. So if he's pinpointed the role of the finance minister, then perhaps he's suggesting that he's personally capable of facilitating some of these activities. We don't have the information. So it's really difficult. That's why I said I was really, really, really challenged talking about this particular situation when your producer reached out.
Okay, thank you very much. So the Deputy Attorney General designates. Why are you laughing? You prefer to be referred to what you were up to yesterday at the University of Ghana, graduating students, many who are very excited about getting, various degrees, master's degrees in the School of Law. You can't hide. This is where you are now. So tell us, from where you sit, once again, let me ask you the same way I ask Bright Simmons. How do you process the issue of the raid of Ofori-Atta's home? And some say you cannot say raid, but I don't know. I don't want to state otherwise about that. Because you see the vehicles moving there, and you see the gentleman leading them step down, and the soldiers who are involved, or military attired, individuals also step down. And you see the gentleman pick his pistol, what appears to be a pistol, assisted by a military officer. Then he puts it in his pocket, appears to hide it, and then walks into the house, gets into a room, gets upstairs, gets into a room. We see people we understand are Ken Ofori-Atta's household children. And then they come out somewhat. Then he looks at one or two things and turns back. Then we see them go out. We don't see them do a search, though. So from that to the OSP's pronouncements, how are you processing all that from where you sit?
Yeah, so I think certain things are clear now. They were not clear before. For example, we know that 2 state institutions are looking for the Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta. That is the National Security and then the Office of the Special Prosecutor. The second thing that is clear is that there are arrest warrants for him as well. Now, you and I have been working on these police military brutalities for some time now, and our position on these matters are well documented and are clear. The question, however, is what caused the agencies, the National Security, to employ that kind of arrest? That we sitting outside may not know, because we know very well that there have been situations where National Security have invited our clients and we accompanied them to the National Security. They will speak with them for as long as they want and we'll go. There have been situations where National Security will stop people on the way and pick them up. There have been situations where they will go to their house the way you described. So perhaps what we need to understand, or what we need to look for at this point, is what really caused the National Security to do that. Sitting outside, we may not be able to answer these particular questions. However, we also understand the pain that the relatives and the families of these persons have gone through. And if you were in their situation, and as some of the NDC MPs have narrated, it is not something that you can be proud of or you find pleasant. But the question still remains that we need to find out exactly what informed the National Security to employ this particular strategy in going to the house. Now, the question about being a fugitive.
I've been trying to get information why they would do so, especially as we have become aware that Ken Ofori-Atta had delivered a letter to the Jubilee House about his absence before this happened. They are tight-lipped. They don't want to give any information except to say, we went there on a proper authority for an arrest.
Yeah, so like Bright was saying earlier, these are details that we sitting outside will not be able to speak to. Now, to the issue of being a fugitive,
you know, I have had a client who could not be found in the middle of a trial. And I appreciate the processes that the police went through. And I believe you have had such instances as well. The key thing here is that is the person within the jurisdiction. And is there enough basis for the person's absence from the jurisdiction? And if, as the OSP is saying, they do not have or they do not believe that his excuses are enough to allow him to remain outside the jurisdiction, then I think that is what fugitive is about. If the law enforcement cannot find the person within the jurisdiction, and there's no reasonable, or they don't find the reasons for the person's continuous absence from the jurisdiction satisfactory, they may have to engage or trigger other processes that may cause the person...
In Ken Ofori-Atta's situation, he's not within the jurisdiction. Mm-hmm. But there is reason, there is communication, there is evidence the OSP doesn't want to rely on.
Yes, so like I said, it is when the law enforcement authority find the evidence satisfactory, then they will say, okay, we can allow you so and so amount of time. And if we allow you this amount of time and you are still not showing up, then we can say, but from what the OSP is saying, he said there was a letter written that he's out of the jurisdiction for medical attention. There's no indication as to when the processes, the medical procedures or process will even happen. So it could be, in his own words, it could be November, it could be next year. The question is it also fair or right that the OSP would just sit down and wait for things to be done at the behest of the person they consider as a suspect? These are questions that the OSP could speak to. But if someone has any evidence...
They have spoken to that. They say, we don't want to go at his pace. This is our determination. He says he's sick. We have... The SP actually said, our intelligence suggests that he's not invalid, that he's able to get on a flight and get to Ghana. So either they said they gave him two options. Either he does that or they will enforce his attendance.
Yes, so either he does that or they will enforce attendance. These are the two options, and obviously this can only be the two options. My problem with the declaration is that to declare someone a fugitive is a serious matter. I mean, internationally. It will frustrate even your movement wherever you are. I don't know to what extent, apart from the press statement they have made, I don't know if they have moved on from there to trigger other processes. But to declare someone a fugitive is a very serious matter.
So he began the press statement and press conference by saying, ladies and gentlemen of the press, I have this morning issued a directive for ABCD. For him.
Yes, so I'm saying that is a serious matter. And if it is found out later that there was not enough or sufficient basis for that action, I think other remedies must lie from that. And I believe that the Honorable Minister's lawyers are very competent enough to examine this and seek remedies from the OSP if this was done without sufficient basis.
Okay. So how about what is being said? Is it not true? Ken Ofori-Atta can come to Ghana today, show up at the OSP, and say, I'm not talking. He's entitled to do that, is he not?
He is, but he must come.
So what's the point?
No, I mean, he can say, and he has lawyers, the lawyers can say that, well, I am not interested in whatever you are doing, go ahead, and that can also happen. But until his lawyers or he himself comes to, he comes to say what you are saying he could say, the police will not sit down, or police processes will not say that because we can't find you, we will go ahead. In fact, to try someone in absentia is a very tall, order. By the Constitution, you don't just say because I've looked for you, I can't find you. You must publish some things. You must go through so many steps before you can start a trial, in absentia. So, if he believes that he doesn't want anything, he doesn't have anything to say, and he wants them to do whatever, which is his right. I mean, he's not bound like
that's right.
Frank Davis said. He's not bound to help the police, but the police cannot assume that by being out of the jurisdiction, you are saying that you won't help them. And in any case, they are not actually calling you to help them. It is part of the process. It's a process of fair hearing to make sure that every step of the way, you are aware of what is going on, and they give you the opportunity to say what you have to say. And I think that is what this is about. It is not to compel him to come down, to come and help in that sense. It is just that if they don't invite him to come and he's not been given the platform to express his opinion, what it means is that then the trial will not be fair. Because you and I know that in the criminal process, every step, the accused must be involved or the suspect must be involved. And if you take the step without the involvement of the suspect, it could be a black point in the process, which could lead to the accused being what? Discharged. So if you don't give the person the fair hearing, you wouldn't know whether he wants to participate in the process or not. But it's entirely his right to do so. But when he's invited and he doesn't want to participate in the process, he can also state that clearly that I am not interested in this. I think this is not, that is it. But for now, he has not said so.
The facts that have come to your attention so far, do you think that Ken Ofori-Atta is being treated fairly?
I think when it comes to the declaration of his being a fugitive, I think from what the OSP has said, I believe there could have been a bit more of other steps before you declare such a person a fugitive. Being out of the jurisdiction and not being able to return within some time, and clearly from the letter, there's some willingness to participate in the process, you know, and the period within which the communication took place, I think it's too short, and the tone of the communication, you could hardly say that the person is running away from justice. And I think that that could have been avoided. That could have been avoided in the process, but it has happened. And that's why I said that...
You fault their judgment when they say from everything they have pieced together, he simply doesn't want to come.
Well, they've told us the things they've pieced together, unless there's something that they've not told us. But from what they have told us so far, there is clear evidence. I mean, the letters we have seen, the OSP's own speech, and the period within which they have asked for him to come, and the reason for his not coming, which is medical. You know, I don't think that the medical reports would be necessary at this point, because if someone travels out of the country, okay, and is going for medical, you know, procedures or examination or whatever, and you don't expect him to publish the details of that to the OSP at this point. But that is why there could have been further communication or further engagements on the matter. Then you are sure that the person is really a fugitive, because to declare someone a fugitive, like I said, it's quite a serious matter. And
except that we don't know what intelligence they have. Is it unfair? Is it grounds to is it sufficient grounds when they do you find that they appear to have sufficient ground to say his response suggests indeterminate situation, that, well, I don't know. I don't know when I'll be available. I don't know.
Maybe let me explain what it means to declare someone a fugitive. When you declare someone a fugitive, you are engaging the international community to help bring that person to justice at home. What it means is that other law enforcement agencies elsewhere are authorized to what? Apprehend the person and ship the person back home. And I'm saying that you cannot engage the international community in this regard based on the facts that they've put out. Well, if they have something which is not out, but which they took into account, then we can say that we are not aware. But from what they have said so far, I think that it is too harsh a decision to take at this point. Because, I mean, fugitive from justice is a serious matter. Let's accept that.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So if Sami is still with us, we'll give you just a couple of minutes to round up so that you leave, having heard everybody and what they have said. And it does appear that the opinions cumulatively don't seem to suggest that you could have been a bit accommodating. What do you say?
Thank you very much. That's why I said that it depends. Usually when sometimes you are from outside, you may think something is not right. But the point we're trying to make is that there's a difference between a criminal fugitive and fugitive from justice. Sometimes we tend to use the words interchangeably, but they are not the same. A fugitive from justice is simply a term of art. Criminal fugitive is more serious than a fugitive from justice. A fugitive from justice simply means that you are not availing yourself to law enforcement agency. So the point we have to make is that if Mr. Ofori-Atta is willing to give us a definitive date by which he wants to come to Ghana, the OSP is willing to accommodate that. Apart from that, if he's also able to tell us that he is invalid and cannot travel, the OSP is willing to accommodate that. What the OSP will not accommodate is to try and give some citizens the opportunity to remain where they want to be and do whatever they want to do without recourse to a serious alleged crime that we are investigating. That the OSP will not account.
Is it the OSP's investigation and intelligence that the longer it takes, there will be some dissipation of some funds, or that some of the evidences may be concealed, and that's why you need him immediately and urgently?
Samson, we have not even said we need him immediately and urgently. I think that people have not painstakingly listened to the SP. The SP has said that from your correspondence, you are unwilling to give us a date by which you want to come to Ghana. And from what your doctor wrote, your doctor has also not given us any reasonable grounds to believe that you cannot fly. It leaves us with only one conclusion, which is that you at this time, nothing we are doing concerns you. And as everybody has said, we are not saying that we need Mr. Ofori-Atta to come and give us evidence to be used against him. OSP has never said that, and the OSP will never do that. That's why we said that he has a right to say whether he wants to say anything. But the process must go on. The arrest has to happen. Things have to follow. And the last one has to do with a little clarification about the OSP stating that it's either staged or an imposter action. That had nothing to do with another security agency. So the OSP, under no circumstances, was trying to demean another security agency. The OSP was only responding to a wicked lie that had been thrown onto the OSP. And you see, if you allow wicked lie to thrive, it builds an opinion against you. Remember in the Cecilia Dapa case, these same persons had created an impression that the OSP had used Rambo style to go to a house and all that, when the OSP never did so. They had even said that the OSP sent media people into her house, when the OSP never did so. They mistook the OSP filming the search together with the suspect, meaning that that film is for media. As for journalists waiting at your doorstep to capture you, that is not under the control of the OSP. As for journalists appearing at the OSP to want to capture you, that is not at the control of the OSP. The OSP protected her, and up to now, no journalist even saw her in the OSP vehicle. Nobody even saw whether we handcuff her or not. The only claim, if I may finish, the only claim was, so you see that when people start to label an organization with no factual basis, and then a second one has come as if the OSP has gone to raid, the response of the OSP is that, Mr. Ofori-Atta and your friends, we have not come to your house. And if what you have just done, because we knew that you know the people who had come to your house, but you never put it out there, and you allowed it
from what has become bare, I think that
it's not about what has become bare.
I think that, you know, I was going to say politicians, like you are not a politician. Dr. Educhum sat on this platform 2 days ago and admitted that the numbers they churned out as people who had benefited from free SHS 5 point something was wrong, and that is 3 point something rather. And he was candid in admitting. And I think that's what the people are expecting from you. It does appear you are seeking to rationalize this, because when you say it is staged or imposter at best, and we find out that it wasn't staged and it's no imposter, you cannot say that, you know, people are making any claims that are not founded. In a minute, please, let's not continue on that tangent. In a minute, now the accusation is that, so what is this? You do all of this, and in the end, you don't do anything. You haven't done any prosecution. You are just wasting money in that office and doing nothing. What will be your last response to that, quickly?
The OSP is one of the most functional law enforcement agencies that we have in this country. The OSP currently has a number of trials in Tamale, in Accra, in Kumasi. Just yesterday, charges were filed against 6 persons. The OSP has investigated key personalities in this country. The OSP has moved actions that have saved the country millions of cedis, from customs division of the GRA to suspension of contracts, even the first special prosecutor managed to be able to derail a JAPA and all that. So if people sit down and say that the OSP has not been successful, that may not be true, especially when it comes to trials. The OSP's job is to place people before the law court. It is the duty of the court to convict or acquit. That is not within our jurisdiction. Again, the average criminal trial in Ghana is about 3 years, right? The OSP is in its 3rd year. So it may not be so reasonable to expect that by now so many people should be in jail. And ultimately, the job of the OSP is not always to prosecute. But when we realize that there's no evidence against people, we make sure that we do not proceed. And we have done this in the Airbus case. We have done this in the...
Thank you very much. Samuel Appiah Darko is Strategy and Communications and Research Director at the Special Prosecutor.